Hi, guys. My name is Jessica Powers. I'm Executive Vice President of Family First Life Aspire. This is the Who Do You Aspire to Be podcast, where I like to get on top agents within our agency that are having really great successes, that are kicking butt, taking names, you name it. And I like to get them on here so we can kind of pick their brain, figure out what they're doing, why they're having the success, why they're here. And, for those of you that are watching this that have either a struggling agent, I hope that you get some tips and little things out of here. If you are, thinking about this opportunity, listen in. And if this is something new, I hope that you can take something away from this. I have the great pleasure of having LisSandra Duarte, my Vice President of Family First Life Phoenix Rising. So welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, LisSandra, just kind of a backstory. You guys have been here with Family First Life for just a little over a year.
Yeah.
Last month was your guys' best month ever. You guys as a team did just under 200,000 of issue paid production. So not submit, those are issue paid volume, real numbers, which is huge.
Yeah.
So why don't you just go ahead and just give everybody just like a little backstory, who you are, where you came from, and, why this, Family First Life was a good opportunity for you.
Absolutely. So like Jessica mentioned, I started with Family First in January 2020. So just over a little bit over a year that I've been with the company, and in a short period of a year, like we were able to hit VP numbers and our agency is just exploding. I came from a previous IMO, so I've been in the industry 7 years, but there's nothing like Family First. Absolutely nothing compares. We were able to expand ridiculously. We're in 15 different states across the United States and growing every single day. And like she mentioned, we did over almost $200,000 in issue paid volume. That's money in people's bank accounts. So that's what probably makes me the happiest about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, and I think it's important to mention that from the get-go, it was like the team and I, right? Because this was when you came here, it wasn't just, what's this going to be for me, but it's like, how is this going to affect the people that are in my circle here, right? And what kind of opportunity?
I think the biggest thing also is that when you sell someone an opportunity, or you tell them, hey, there's the opportunity to make big money here, etc., to be able to deliver on those promises, I think is huge. And I believe that, people tend to, take your word for it. And I didn't like not delivering on any of the promises that I gave in the past. And I'm happy to say that I've more than delivered on promises here. I always make a joke with my team. I'm not trying to be the best. I just want to have the best on my team.
Yeah.
So, I think it's awesome. They make, sometimes they've gotten close to doubling what I make. And here we're just praising personal volume, and we don't even talk about what you get as, from having a team and an agency. And I think that's what is the biggest blessing of all, is to be able to see your team actually go out there and, win for their families more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. And, I appreciate you saying that, about delivering and kind of like selling people those dreams. I think a lot of people, either if they're into industry or not, can feel a little skeptical about this opportunity and feel like it's kind of that too good to be true. Now, can you touch on that a little bit? Like, when did you really realize that this wasn't like a too good to be true, or, being skeptical about the opportunity?
Now, it's going to sound very corny and cheesy, but when I figured out that it's not too good to be true was when I actually sold my first policy that was like $30 a month. And somebody's going to be like, $30 a month? What's so great about that? So my first policy was $30 a month. And I think it was like maybe a couple $100 that was deposited in my account, right? And somebody will probably ask me, like, why was that such a big deal? The reason why it was such a big deal is that I wrote the policy on Wednesday, and on Friday morning, it was in my bank account. So for me, that was like, okay, this is real. And I remember I called Marcus and I was just like, oh my God, it is real. And people will be like, but it was only a couple $100. That wasn't the point for me, though. It's because I could actually tell someone, you sell something on one day and 2 days later it's in your bank account.
Yeah.
Like It literally is that simple. And, coming from the traditional insurance industry in which you have to do fully underwritten products, that was a complete game changer for me, just in general. And then on top of that, not having to talk to friends and family to be able to buy leads, talk to people that actually want what you're selling, that's a huge difference. I mean, number one, if you're really good at selling, if you're phenomenal at selling, if you're selling something to someone that wants what you're selling, you're not even selling.
Exactly.
You're literally just checking a box for them. That's what they want. Good to go. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyone that is afraid, oh, I'm not a salesperson, etc. I'm not a salesperson. I would never admit to being a salesperson. I literally just sit down, have a conversation with some people. They tell me what they're looking for. I find the best possible suited option for them. I tell them, do you want A, B, or C? And they say B, or they say C. And I'm like, great. And I write it up for them, and that's it.
Right.
And you make friends in the meantime.
Exactly. I know. I always tell people, I'm like, this really isn't, people tell me, oh, I'm not a good salesperson. I'm like, yeah, me either. I just know how to talk to people, and I just care about putting families first. And then in the interim, like, my family is getting put, it's for a win-win for both.
Exactly.
Do you feel like, do you have to be a certain person to be able to have, success here? Or do you feel like this really is a platform where pretty much, anybody can come in as long as they follow certain guidelines or things like that?
So I have a theory, and my theory is that if you're humble and hungry, you're going to win. You're going to go far greater than that individual that is just money driven and wanting to win. Here's why I say that is because those that are humble and hungry are going to work probably twice as hard at, sharing the information and delivering on what they're talking about. Right. Versus that one that's out there just to make the dollar. They're going to make some great money. I'm not denying that. You're going to make phenomenal money here. But if you help others to get to where they want to go, you're going to get even further. So my whole thing when I first started with this company, like my whole thing was I was very humble. I was like, I don't know this. I'm just learning. All I did was introduce people. They got to, basically they got the bull by the horns. They ran with me. And that's why we are where we are, because we stayed humble and we didn't pretend to know something that we didn't. And anytime anyone knew something more than I did, I made them like the point of contact. I didn't try and do everything myself. And I think for the most part, people get that a little bit confused, like, oh, it's my team, I'm going to grow them however I want, et cetera, et cetera. But when we just work together and just throw people like, hey, this is all one organization, we all work together, this is going on, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I know that my agency wouldn't be here if it wasn't for leaders like yourself, or, John and Marcus all plugging in, Brian, like giving us the opportunity to have, I look at it as everybody has different levels of what they're good at. So understand that everyone's here to help each other and everyone's here to grow together. And it's almost like a well-oiled machine. Like you just plug anybody in and all of a sudden, like they're making money. And you're just like, oh, wow. Like they just started last week, and it's phenomenal. And it does, like, I love, helping everyone within, Aspire within FFL North, because I know it always comes back. John helped us a lot in the very beginning. So when he had agents in my backyard, I had no problem helping them, because I knew that he took the time and energy out of his schedule to help my team. So I wanted to return the favor. And I believe that's the way FFL was built. And the more humble you stay, the better I think you become.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because, they say you can't have a big ego and a big business at the same time. Right. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's one of the things that I've really loved and was something that really attracted me to Family First Life. Like you hit the nail on the head. Money is great, right? But it's not always just that, right?
Exactly.
It's the willingness for anybody in the company to help you, right? To have the resources. I always tell people too, when they come on, I'm like, listen, if at any some point you think, wow, I really can't stand Jessica, that's okay. Because maybe you don't learn from me. Maybe someone doesn't learn from you, but there's somebody out there that you can relate to. One of the things that I want to bring up, because I just think that in our day and age, and even in the industry, I want to bring up the fact that, you know, first of all, obviously you're building a large agency, which is huge and it's not an easy task, but also being a woman in this industry and just being a woman leader. And I want to talk to you about that because I think there's a lot of women out there that, you know, feel like that glass, you know, having that glass, like they don't want a glass ceiling and that opportunity. And especially with, you know, maybe in the insurance industry or industries in general, in the past, it was very a male dominant industry. So can you touch on that a little bit? I'd be interested to hear kind of your take on kind of opportunities for women in this industry.
Yes. I tend to attract strong leaders, and whether they're male or female. They tend to be stronger, like strong as in, you know, personalities, and, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to ever, like I said, stay humble. Because one of the things as a woman, to be able to lead a man, you have to be able to stand your ground, back up what you're saying. And one of the things that I've always prided myself of is that you have to keep your word. So if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it, like follow through and do those things, because that's the best way to gain that respect from your team and respect from your agency. Because if you say you're going to do something and you do it, then they're like, oh, shoot, like she does what she says she's going to do. And then the other thing is, as a woman, you have to learn Socratic leadership. Now, Socratic leadership's a little bit different and you can always read up on it and such, but one of the things that I've learned is that you have to talk to people in a respectful manner without disrespecting them, without talking down to them, but being very direct in the sense that you're stating certain facts, such as, look, appreciate them for what they've done, highlight their wins, highlight what they've accomplished, but also ask them questions versus telling them what to do. So that being said, when you have a strong leader and you're trying to kind of guide them, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I kind of come out the question and ask, hey, you know, what is it that you're doing? What are you focused on? What's your goal for this week? What's your goal for the month? What's your goal for your agency? What do you think you guys are going to do this month? How are you going to accomplish that? Versus, are you going to hit this? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? So when you come at it from like, hey, I'm asking because I'm interested in how your business is doing, you come more from a, you know, relationship friendly type versus like attack mode.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I had to learn early on, is that you can't tell people what to do. You kind of got to ask them what it is that they want to do.
Yes, exactly.
Especially if they're already leaders. And believe me, in this industry, you're going to find a lot of amazing leaders. But there's one of the things that my mentor a long time ago told me. He said, the leaders will come when you're a leader yourself. And I'm blessed to have some incredible leaders in my team. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So like, for the most part, I understand that I'm nothing without them. Absolutely. So I can't take the credit. So people are like, oh, how did you get to that? I'm like, it's not me, it's our agency. We have a great team. We have great leaders, great managers. And people are like, why don't you take the credit? Because it's not my credit to take.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
And
more.
so that's been my whole thing. And I mean, I'm blessed, like I said, with an incredible, strong leaders on my team, that you get to the point where you just kind of guide them and kind of, you know, if you kind of see them kind of going off astray a little bit, just stop and say, hey, you know, you had an amazing month last month. You know, what did you do differently? What were your wins? What were your, you know, what is it that you lacked? What is it you need from me? What can I do to help you get to that next step? And kind of doing that's been how I've been doing it, because I'm not trying to tell people what to do. You know, if they're doing better than me, I'm not trying to change anything either. So
yeah, I absolutely. And, you know, I think that that's powerful in itself too, because we are independent, right? And it's just help nurturing and building those relationships. And just like you said, like, you know, that you wouldn't be here without your team. Like, I know that as well. Like, I appreciate you guys tremendously. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody on the team, because it's not just one person. right? It's like,
Right.
congratulations to all of Phoenix Rising, because it's everybody. It's not just
Exactly.
LisSandra, it's not just Jessica, it's not just Marcus, it's, it's everybody. So before, well, kind of as we wrap this up, I think we've had a lot of great insight on, who you are, what your guys is, where you're going, why you guys, it's no secret to why you guys aren't having or are having the success. But, a couple, I would say if somebody is either looking into this, maybe they've heard some negative things about the company, or they still have some skepticism, like, can you just like leave with a couple thoughts or a couple statements as to somebody like why that this would be, could be a really great opportunity for somebody either licensed or not?
Sure. One of the things that I always talk to anybody that's looking at the company, looking at insurance in general, or looking to actually do something different in their career, is I always tell them there's a couple of things. If you want to be successful here, this is hard work. Like every single day, you're going to work hard. And yes, I have 2 office days a week, but that doesn't mean I'm not working. Like there's 6 days out of the week that I'm working. It's either I'm working on marketing, or I'm working on back office. I'm working on, leadership training, hiring, whatever it is that I'm doing on those 2 days for office. And then the other 4 days I'm running in the field. So if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to get there as fast as you're expecting to. And another kind of realization is that if you're putting in 9 to 5 at your job, but you're not willing to do that same amount of hours in your own business, you're not going to be successful either. A lot of people think this is like a side hustle or like a side business, and it can be. You could do it successfully, but you have to run it like if you're clocking in. You have to clock in at 8 a.m. at your job. You can't show up late. So if you show up late for your side hustle or your business, then it's going to reflect in your numbers.
Absolutely.
So keep all of those things in check. And then also understand that it's a law of averages and it's a numbers game. So you're not always going to win on the first day at bat. Like you're not. You got to keep swinging and you got to keep going. And sometimes you're going to get a dud and sometimes you're going to get a stud. But I think Stephen Yee said it really, really well, where he was talking about there's 52 cards in the deck. But in order to get to 4 aces, then you have to keep flipping the cards to find that ace. So at the end of the day, like if you're not going after and looking for those items that you're looking for, or those either the clients or the business partners, if you're not constantly out there, flipping the deck and putting the numbers in your favor, one of your famous quotes, Jessica, then you're not going to get there. You're never going to get to what you want to get if you're not taking the time to put that energy in. So it's not a hard business, but it's not easy either. So
I agree.
That's the bottom line.
Well, I think all that stuff right there is just, I couldn't have said it better. That was perfect. One last question before we get off. I'm just kind of curious, ballpark, what would you say in this last year, what's the most is highest deposits that you have seen in 1 month?
In my bank account?
Yes.
Over 20 grand.
In 1 month?
Yeah.
So is that safe to say that that's the most that you've had deposited in 1 month before anywhere else?
Yeah, it should be over 30 this month, if not more. But at any given moment, there's a big case that Paul on my agency is working on right now. So that case is going to be ridiculous. But yeah, without fail, it hasn't gone under 20,000 deposits.
Right.
So yeah,
that's pretty powerful. There's not many places that you can go from in just a short amount of time. So I always say, it's like, the sacrifice, there's always a sacrifice. And a lot of times it's a sacrifice for a little bit of time for a big gain, right? So I really appreciate you getting on here and talking with us. There's no secret as to why your team's not is exploding the way it is and you're having a lot of success. I know that you guys are just going to keep growing and growing. I'm very excited for you guys. I appreciate you. For those of you that are watching, if this is something that you feel like would be a good fit for you, if you have more questions, or perhaps you're just struggling and you need some assistance, reach out to us. I'm going to make sure and have LisSandra's contact information on here as well as myself. But again, my name is Jessica Powers, and this was the Who Do You Aspire to Be podcast. Thanks for getting on. I appreciate you.